Inspiring cleaner discovered hidden solution to math problem no wealthy kid could solve. In the upscale corridors of Avalon Heights High, the laughter of the privileged echoing off the walls was a stark reminder of the chasm between them and Marcus, the dedicated janitor. Every morning, he silently mopped the bright tiled floors, aware of the gap between their lives, a gap wider today than ever after his father passed away. Yet he held on to the values his dad instilled: hard work, resilience, and most importantly, the belief that education was a beacon to a brighter future. For his son Danny, who dreamt of college, Marcus wanted to lay a path one worth treading, no matter the obstacles. That day buzzed with excitement. A notoriously tough math problem was circulating among the honor students. The whispers grew louder. "No one can solve it," one student scoffed. The affluent kids had tutors, private lessons, and all the resources needed. But Danny, standing there with eyes like his father's, believed he could crack it, that maybe he was more than a kid from a lower-income family. Marcus felt that spark too. Could he find a way to support his son's aspirations, to show him that there was a family legacy beyond sweeping floors? As Marcus tackled the challenge during his breaks, the classroom became his oasis. Hours shifted into days, problems turned into equations he began paint-splashing his life onto. One late night, the janitorial closet filled with the yellow glow of his flashlight, he stumbled upon a wild yet straightforward solution. It seemed intuitive, born from knocking on doors in everyday life, rather than in the sterile math classrooms reserved for the wealthy. Excitement bubbled in his chest. The thrill of discovery surged through him like the earliest rays of sunlight, when a student named Kyle, the star of the math team, encountered Marcus scribbling his solution. He paused, skeptical. A janitor, solving a math problem? Really? The look that flickered in Kyle's eyes was not just doubt but a low-grade fear. What if this man figured out something they couldn't? The timing felt precarious, but Marcus couldn't retreat now. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His revelation rippled across the school, igniting intrigue and jealousy in equal measure. Doubts crept in like shadows. Parents of the affluent students whispered behind closed doors, "Does he even belong here?" Suddenly, Marcus was no longer a faceless janitor but a target of whispers. The elite hedged and surrounded by a fortress of wealth that made them question his rightful place. He had to confront this adversary. With a heart pounding and sweat trickling down his back, Marcus stood up, facing the accusations head-on. Math isn't just for the affluent. It's a language anyone can speak. He felt every gaze of disbelief sharpen. He could almost hear the high-pitched gasp ripple like a wave. But within him, a fierce light burned. His father's legacy pushing him to challenge that worldview. As Marcus defended his findings, families began to see more than just a janitor. They began to see a symbol of perseverance, hard work, and challenge. Perhaps, just perhaps, true merit could shine through the clouds of privilege. Yet with every step towards acceptance, a final confrontation loomed. Would the walls of animosity separating them crumble, or would Marcus's determination ignite deeper divides? As he walked out alongside Danny, hand in hand into the crisp evening air, hope flickered in their hearts. Was this the beginning of real change? Would inspiration rise above the weight of wealth? The future hung in the balance, lingering like an unanswered question in the twilight. The following day, Marcus arrived at Avalon Heights with a weight on his shoulders. The early morning light spilled into the school, illuminating his path, but the laughter of the students felt sharper, louder. This wasn't just another day of cleaning, it was a day of reckoning. The whispers from the previous day echoed in his mind. Had he really become a figure to challenge the status quo, or was he walking into a storm? As he paused near the math wing, he saw Kyle talking animatedly with his friends. Those familiar faces, huddled in their perceived superiority, looked as if they were preparing for war. But Marcus knew he wouldn't back down. The classroom was where he found solace, where his thoughts danced across the equations he scribbled on crumpled napkins. What he had discovered mattered not just to him, but to every kid who dared to dream beyond their circumstances, and just like that, Danny appeared at his side, his little footsteps echoing in the hallway. "Dad?" There was a hint of apprehension in his voice. Marcus knelt, looking straight into those deep brown eyes. "You ready for today?" Danny nodded, though uncertainty tinged his expression. "What if people still don't believe you? What if they don't take us seriously?" "Then we keep pushing," Marcus replied softly. "We show them that heart and grit matter more than any privilege." Danny's gaze sharpened, the fire of determination igniting. As Marcus stood, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just his fight, it was for all of those kids whose dreams were being stifled beneath the weight of expectation. Soon after, the day transitioned into the lunch hour. Naturally, gossip flowed freely among the students. Marcus couldn't help but overhear snippets of conversations. "A janitor thinks he can teach us," floated through the air, imbued with derision. "Sounds like a joke," another voice chimed in, filled with contempt. But then he noticed a shift. Whispers about the impossible problem morphed from mocking tones to curious murmurs. The balance was teetering. A group of students had gathered, perhaps drawn by a mixture of disbelief and excitement. Something sparked. Was it interest in his solution, or were they merely seeking entertainment from the unfolding drama? "Hey, Marcus!" Kyle called out, crossing into the cafeteria with an air of theatrical bravado. "Do you really think you can solve this problem? I mean, what would you even know about it?" Marcus inhaled deeply. "Math speaks to everyone, Kyle. You just need to listen." A collective silence ensued. Everyone was suddenly entranced by this unusual banter. Even those who were once resistant to his presence started to lean in, intrigued. "Let us gather after school. I'll show you all my solution," Marcus offered, surprising even himself with the steadiness in his voice. It was a challenge, but one he felt ready to embrace. The lunch bell rang, students began to scatter, but a few lingered, eyes swirling with emotion, curiosity, skepticism, even a flicker of admiration. As Marcus by Danny's side navigated the chaos of escaping students, he felt a renewed sense of camaraderie form, even if it was shaky and tentative. They were stepping onto a battlefield of perception, yet within them brewed the winds of change. On the other side of the school, another group watched with crossed arms, plotting their next move. Would Marcus's acceptance be met with muted applause, or could a greater animosity emerge? Tonight, the math room would be a battleground. But would they rise together in understanding, or would division deepen? The air charged with questions, anticipation, and hope. It was time, and as Marcus glanced at Danny, he knew the moment of truth was fast approaching. Would they emerge ready to break barriers, or would their resolve fracture under pressure? The answers waited, hidden, beyond the classroom doors. With the final bell ringing, the chatter in the hallways intensified. Marcus felt the buzz of energy surrounding him as he and Danny made their way to the math room. Students filed in, laughter and whispers creating a chaotic symphony of expectation. Every footstep echoed like a heartbeat in his ears, and with every passing moment, the gravity of the evening's challenge loomed larger. As they entered the classroom, Marcus positioned himself at the front beside the whiteboard, feeling both exhilarated and anxious. The faces of his peers turned towards him, many still wearing uncertainty like a mask. Kyle leaned against the doorway, arms folded tightly, his presence a reminder of the mountain Marcus had to climb. "All right," he started, the tremors of his voice barely hidden underlying the fervor of determination. "I'm glad you all decided to come." His heart raced, but he forced a confident smile. The room quieted, and eyes filled with curiosity. Danny stood by his side, a small anchor made from innocence and unwavering faith. Marcus began to explain his journey. "I know I'm the janitor, and yes, I don't have fancy degrees. But math, much like cleaning, is all about finding solutions to problems. Sometimes the best answers come from unexpected places. Skeptic glances met him at every turn, but he pressed on, intent on sharing the fruit of his labor. He launched into the intricate details of his solution to the impossible problem, drawing equations and circles on the board as he spoke. It was like a dance. The numbers flowed as he moved from one concept to the next, seeking to engage his audience more than impress them. Gradually, murmurs of interest began to fill the room. Hands shot up, questions were asked, and the climate shifted. For the first time, Kyle raised an eyebrow in genuine curiosity. "Wait, so, you're saying the answer is right here in this equation?" "Yes." "Exactly," Marcus replied, feeling a surge of hope. "It's about perspective. If you look closely, you'll find that the solution is actually a way to change how you think about the problem." The atmosphere transformed, the tension melting away in the face of emerging respect and shared understanding. Students leaned closer, their calculators clicking as they tried to unravel the implications of his discovery. The walls that once divided them seemed to lower, shifting from kings and pawns to a collective mission, yet, deep down, Marcus sensed a shadow lurking. He caught glimpses of students still embodying the opposition, their eyes brimming with defiance. He needed to confront that too, just as much as he embraced the encouragement. "I know many of you might still doubt me. But it's not about who I am, it's about what we can achieve together." Danny leaned in, resting his head against his father's side, his small stature grounding Marcus amidst the complexity of the moment. Perhaps it was just their presence, the way he smiled at his dad, belief lighting up his entire face. But just as he was turning to face the class fully, Kyle stepped forward, a challenge brewing in his eyes. "If it's really that great, why don't we test it? Let us see if it works out for more than just a simple math equation." A hush fell over the room, the weight of Kyle's words sinking in. Marcus felt a wave of nerves wash over him, uncertainty threatening to rise. Would this moment become his greatest triumph or his epic failure? And so, with eyes locked on Marcus, the students waited. The classroom felt charged, as though they were all standing on the precipice of something significant. How would he respond to the challenge before him? How would they all get through this together? With tension orbiting around them like an unsteady satellite, Marcus inhaled deeply, the stakes set high. He couldn't allow fear to take hold, not when they were so close to discovering what they could truly become. What would happen next? Would they rise to the occasion, or would they let this opportunity slip away? There was no turning back now. The answers waited, just beyond the surface. Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The challenge had been thrown down, and there was no escaping it. He stood there, heart pounding, waiting for the universe to align in his favor. "All right," he said, swallowing hard. "Let us put it to the test." Kyle's face broke into a sly grin. "Great. Let us see if you can prove us wrong." His challenge echoed around the classroom, and murmurs of excitement grew. Each student leaned in a little closer, a mixture of thrill and skepticism flickering in their eyes. Marcus quickly sketched out the problem on the board again and drew deep breaths to steady himself. He had explained the process, but now it was time for action. "Okay, who's got a calculator? We're going to break this down together." He watched as hands moved, calculators clicking and scribbled notes flying. But he couldn't shake off the sense of dread lurking at the back of his mind. What if they failed? What if he failed? Danny's hand flew up. "Dad! Can I try?" His enthusiasm was infectious, and Marcus felt a swell of pride. "Of course, buddy." He gestured for Danny to come up, and the little boy practically bounced to his side. "Let us see if we can uncover this solution," Marcus said, sharing a grin with Danny, who radiated pure determination. As they worked through the calculations, the entire room shifted. The once skeptical students were becoming eager participants, exchanging theories and insights, and for the first time, they seemed united. Marcus could feel the tension in the air begin to shift from doubt to excitement. Kyle stood at the back, arms now uncrossed, his expression changing from challenge to intrigue. What do we do with this part? Kyle asked, stepping forward to join them at the board. Marcus pointed to the equation and smiled. We look for the relationships between these variables. They might not be obvious, just like how we don't always see the value in where I come from. The laughter that followed surprised him. It was light, unfettered, and genuine. They were beginning to see him as more than just the janitor. They were learning together, and this newfound respect felt exhilarating. As they progressed, more hands shot up to contribute, ideas bouncing between them like invigorating sparks of creativity. Confidence surged in Marcus, flowing like light through the cracks of a once-closed door. But moments later, he felt a familiar shadow creeping back in. One student, Jess, raised her hand hesitantly. Okay, but what if we get it wrong? The room fell silent. The laughter died, and Marcus felt the weight of her words. He could see doubt rising again, circling around them like a hawk. That's okay, he said, voice steady. Mistakes are part of learning. We're building something here, and part of that involves taking risks. Even if we stumble, we grow from it. Silence met his words, but he could see flickers of understanding begin to ignite. Let us go for it. I want to see where this leads us, Kyle said, a hint of excitement in his tone. The classroom buzzed again, and with Danny beaming at him, Marcus felt that flicker turn into a flame. The rest of the session buzzed with energy and hope, and as the clock ticked down, they were closer than ever to the solution. Yet a gaping question lingered in Marcus's mind. Would they fully embrace the transformation he saw? With the final minutes ticking away, Marcus felt a flicker of doubt mixed with excitement. The bell rang, jolting them all. And then it hit him: the challenge wasn't just about math. It was about connection and growth. Listen, he said as the students began gathering their things. This isn't just about the problem we worked on. This is about what you can achieve together. Remember that. As they filed out, Kyle lingered a moment longer, looking at Marcus from across the room. See you tomorrow. Let us prove you're right, and maybe, let us see if we can tackle something even harder. Marcus smiled, heart racing. I'd like that, but are you ready for it? The moment hung in the air, charged with potential. Tomorrow could unveil new paths or silent doubts. Only time would tell which journey awaited them. The morning light filtered softly through the classroom windows, casting warm shadows across the desks. Marcus stood at the front, a sense of anticipation buzzing in the air. Today felt different. The energy was alive, charged with the promise of what lay ahead. As students trickled in, the room filled with laughter and chatter. Danny ran up to him, excitement brightening his face. Dad! Are we really going to tackle something harder today? Marcus nodded, ruffling his son's hair. Absolutely. We're in this together. A sense of pride swelled in him. Danny was not just a student today, he was part of this movement, this community they had begun to build. Once everyone settled, Marcus cleared his throat. All right, everyone. Together, we're going to face a more complex problem. One that might challenge us in unexpected ways. He wrote the equation on the board with bold strokes, and the room fell silent. Kyle leaned forward, eyes sharp with curiosity. What's the catch? There may be multiple ways to solve this, Marcus replied, stepping into the rhythm of the lesson. But it'll take teamwork. Let us break it down, piece by piece. I want each of you to contribute something. And with that, it happened again. Ideas flowed. Students exchanged glances, a spark of connection igniting among them. Marcus watched with a smile as Kyle, Jess, and others rallied together, brainstorming aloud. Okay, what if we try it this way? Jess suggested, her tone more confident this time. Yes. That could work. Kyle exclaimed, pointing at the board, enthusiasm igniting his demeanor. As they fought through the complex layers of the problem, Marcus leaned against the wall, pride swelling in his chest. They were unraveling the solution, but deep down, he knew it was more than just about math. It was about trust, about stepping beyond their comfort zones. Yet, as they tackled various methods and theories, anxiety gripped Marcus again. Would they stumble? Would the challenges of the equation defeat them? He wrestled with the weight of their expectations, the shadows creeping into his thoughts. Suddenly, he heard Danny shout, "Look! We can combine these two variables. It might give us a clearer path." A hush fell, and all eyes turned to Danny. Marcus felt his heart swell, pride exploding within him as he watched his son articulate an idea that made sense. The students rallied around, their expressions shifting from doubt to determination. "Let us try it." Kyle cheered, and momentum surged through the room. Together, they pored over the calculations, fingers flying on calculators and pens racing across paper. Marcus felt the energy shift in the air, it wrapped around him like a warm embrace. As they made progress, he caught sight of Jess, biting her lip in concentration. Her focus inspired him. They were all leaning into the challenge. Finally, after several intense minutes, a breakthrough occurred. "We did it!" Kyle shouted, jubilation spilling over. The room erupted in cheers. In that moment, Marcus could hardly believe what he saw. They had transformed, turning into a cohesive unit, each student buoying the other up as they reached for the solution, but suddenly, a voice broke through the celebration. "Wait, what happens if we change the numbers?" It was Jess again, uncertainty creeping back into the room. The cheers quieted, the shadow returned, wrapping itself around them. Marcus felt his heart drop, but he quickly rallied. "That's the beauty of math, Jess. It teaches us resilience. We learn by adapting, by testing new waters." Each face in the room turned toward him, reflecting a spectrum of emotions: hope, fear, eagerness, doubt. It was a crossroads for them all, and he remembered how quickly doubt could spiral. "Who's ready for a new equation?" he asked, leaning in, ready to guide them through one more leap. The air crackled with anticipation. But what if everything changed with just one simple adjustment? Would they embrace the challenge ahead, or would they let doubt consume them once again? The next steps loomed ominously close, but together, they had ignited a fire. Could this spark become a blaze? Would they withstand the pressure? Only tomorrow would tell. The next morning dawned brightly, washing over the classroom with renewed energy. Marcus stood at the front, hands slightly trembling as he prepared for the day's lesson. Last-minute thoughts raced through his mind. What if today was somehow more significant than yesterday, or what if everything they had built just crumbled in front of him? The classroom burst open like a dam, students flooding in, their animated discussions punctuated by laughter. Danny rushed to his father's side, his face aglow. "Dad! Are we really going to surprise them today?" His eyes sparkled with mischief. Marcus met his son's enthusiasm with a grin, trying to quell the fluttering in his stomach. "Absolutely. Today is all about discovery." As everyone settled down, Marcus noticed the familiar camaraderie. There was a buzz of excitement. He wrote today's equation on the board, one that already felt more intricate and layered than the previous one. "All right, folks. Today, we dive deeper. The goal is the same, to uncover solutions but with a twist. There might be ideas hidden, waiting to be found. Who's ready?" "Me!" Danny exclaimed, pumping his fist. "Let us do this." Kyle echoed, tension crackling in the air like static. Marcus's heart raced as they began. But halfway through the discussion, when the chatter picked up speed, Jess's voice pierced through it, a note of hesitation creeping back in. "What if we get it wrong again? What if we can't find the solution?" Silence fell once more. Marcus sensed a chill washing over the enthusiasm. Memories of yesterday's fluctuating emotions weighted the air. Battling against that current, he stepped closer to the group, looking into each of their eyes. "Remember what we talked about? Learning isn't just about getting it right. It's about the journey, the questions we ask, the mistakes we make, and how we lift each other when it gets tough." They exchanged uncertain glances, but Marcus could see the flicker of determination taking hold again. Then, Kyle broke the silence. "So, what's the plan? We can't just sit here, right?" "Right," Marcus said, a surge of relief washing over him. "Let's split into smaller teams. You can combine your strengths. Work on distinct parts of the problem. See what unique answers you can uncover. Some of you might come up with ideas no one else considered. Let's go." Danny beamed, thrusting out a hand for high fives. In an instant, the room buzzed with energy again. Students huddled in groups, voices rising and falling in a chorus of brainstorming. As the clock ticked, Marcus wandered from group to group, watching light bulbs go off above heads. There were animated gestures, passionate debates. He caught snippets of conversations, like Kyle passionately defending his method or Danny cheerfully challenging his dad's ideas. The classroom felt alive, but just as enthusiasm reached its peak, Jess's voice chimed out again, laced with trepidation. "What if this just leads us to another dead end? What if we can't achieve what you think we can?" Marcus stopped. The question gnawed at him. How could he assure them in the face of uncertainty? With a deep breath, he smiled softly. "The dead ends are part of the adventure. What we learn along the way makes us stronger. We're not only solving a math problem, we're learning to tackle life's challenges. That's what matters most." An unseen weight lifted, and the students nodded, faces lit with a new round of determination. Then suddenly, just as he thought they were all getting the hang of it, Danny shouted, "Hey! What if we do a complete overhaul? Let's twist the whole equation." The room faltered, caught momentarily between disbelief and intrigue, as excited eyes turned toward Marcus, seeking permission, and their hearts synchronized in expectation. Could this radical new approach truly bear fruit, or would it unleash yet another cycle of doubt? Another day lay ahead of them, teetering on the edge of potential breakthrough or breakdown. Would they forge ahead into uncharted waters, or retreat to the security of the familiar? The energy in the room, once electric, was now coursing with a mixture of apprehension and anticipation. Marcus could see it in their faces, a hunger for innovation, but also a lingering fear of failure. He took a moment, studying his students as they looked at him and then at each other, grappling with the idea Danny had just proposed. "All right, team," Marcus said, casting aside his lingering doubts. "Let us go for it. A complete overhaul means breaking the mold. It could be messy, but that's where the real magic happens." Danny's eyes widened, and he grinned with excitement. Kyle nodded vigorously, the spark of determination rekindled. "Okay, let's break it down," Marcus continued. "What does a twist look like for each of you? Don't hold back, let your creativity flow." With that, the classroom transformed. The students leaned into the challenge, brainstorming ideas with wild abandon. Whiteboards became canvases, scribbled theories and rewritten equations clashing against each other. Marcus took a step back, heart racing as he watched his students thrive. It was more than math, it was team building, collaboration, the essence of learning. Discussions erupted, and the volume amplified, cheers of triumph coiling into the air as they embraced their new paths. "Hey, what if we added this concept?" Jess piped up, her voice rising above the chatter. "It might not have been possible before, but this could lead us somewhere." "Exactly," Kyle shot back. "That's the spirit. Just because we didn't see it before doesn't mean it's not there." Danny hopped from group to group, filling each critical moment with excitement. The enthusiasm rolled through the room like a wave, washing over them until doubt surrendered to exhilaration. Marcus felt awe creeping into his heart. This was what he wanted to instill in them, the freedom to dream larger, to stretch further, yet, beneath the surface, uncertainty flickered still. Each whispered question and hesitant glance from Jess reminded Marcus of the weight this uncharted territory carried. He wandered through the groups, listening intently. One cluster of students was struggling, revisiting a puzzle they thought was solved. Marcus felt the tension rise again. "Let's take a breather. He proposed. Why don't we regroup for a moment? Share the hurdles you're facing. The students huddled tighter, lonely doubts mingling into a chorus of questions. What if we're just going in circles? What if this leads us nowhere? Marcus took a breath, feeling the weight of their fears pressing down on him. He realized that it was not just about equations, it was about their self-worth. Look, he said, voice steady and warm, every challenge here is a step towards growth. Every wrong turn doesn't define you, it shows you what to avoid next time. The real victory is in trying. Their eyes met, and he caught glimmers of hope. With newfound courage, they resumed their brainstorming. The classroom became a blend of laughter and determination. It felt like a safety net under a tightrope walk. As the final minutes of class slipped away, Marcus called everyone together. All right. We're almost there. Each of you has presented such unique angles. I can't wait to see what you've pieced together. Just as the bell rang, Danny burst forth with joy. Dad! I think we're onto something huge. But can we test this out today? The urgency in his voice sliced through the day's remnants of doubt. Today? Can we really make it happen? Marcus's heart raced again, this time filled with both hope and apprehension. Absolutely. Danny exclaimed, grabbing a marker as he dashed to the front, caught between the promise of exploration and the acknowledgement of trepidation. Marcus stared at his son's enthusiasm. He could feel the weight of potential outcomes resting on their shoulders. Could they really turn this chaotic energy into a breakthrough? Would they discover something monumental, or was this just another pipe dream? As he faced the class, caught in their anticipation, he knew one thing: they were on the brink of something big. But what would it be? In that moment, he realized the greatest teaching was about navigating uncharted territory together. Would they uncover the hidden solution they sought, or would they stumble once more? The clock continued to tick, and tomorrow loomed over them like a question yet unanswered. The next morning felt heavier than usual. Marcus arrived at the classroom with his heart pounding and his nerves buzzing like a frayed wire. Last night's enthusiasm had settled into an anxious weight. He knew they were about to attempt something extraordinary, but what if they failed? When the students filed in, their faces mirrored his apprehension. Danny, bubbling with a renewed sense of urgency, took his place at the front. We can make this happen, he declared, his voice steady. The others nodded, yet the glances exchanged among them spoke volumes about the uncertainty they still felt. Let us remind ourselves why we're doing this, Marcus encouraged. Innovation often comes after digging through uncertainty. What are we bringing to life today? Danny moved to the whiteboard and began sketching the remnants of their brainstorming session from yesterday. Ideas flowed in snippets. What if we combine these theories? And is there an experiment we can run? Excitement flickered anew, though doubt still lingered in the corners of their conversations. Marcus walked among the desks, catching snippets of the discussions. He listened to Jess grapple with her idea. I just don't know if we can do this. What if it's too ambitious? Ambitious is good, Marcus interjected gently. Remember, the greatest achievements often come from those daring steps. What if this is your moment to shine? With a slight nod, Jess returned to her paper, determination flickering across her face. He could see the battle within her, a mix of fear and hope. It resonated with him. He faced the same internal struggle. Minutes trickled by. As the team worked diligently, an energy began to swell. Broken phrases this could lead to, and if we modify it here, hung heavily in the air, and their excitement began to transform into something palpable. Finally, the students took a deep breath together, and Danny rallied the group. All right. We have a plan, but now we need to test it. Who's ready to dive in? An eruption of affirmations surged through the classroom. Marcus felt the room shift, the doubts dissipating like fog under sunlight. He could almost pin down that moment the sweet preciousness of shared belief, that together they were capable of something great. As the small groups dotted the room with scattered experiments and calculations, Marcus looked on with pride. He caught sight of Kyle and Jess, their laughter weaving through deep concentration. In that very moment, it was clear. They were not just learning math, they were cultivating resilience, grit, and a sense of community. The clock ticked relentlessly, pressing them closer to the moment of truth. "Let us start the testing," Danny shouted, his eyes shining. "Everyone, we're counting on you." Marcus positioned himself near Danny, keenly aware of the anticipation rippling through the throaty murmurs. The first test began, pencils glided across paper, and equations erupted from minds unleashed. It felt like the air was charged, and Marcus could hardly contain a grin. Then came the moment. One of the group's hypotheses started to work. Parameters danced before their eyes on the board. Gasps filled the room, followed by shouts of triumph. "It's actually happening!" Jess exclaimed, joy bubbling in her voice, but as the celebration surged around him, a new tension tightened in Marcus's chest. He couldn't help but wonder, was this really it? Was there breakthrough on the horizon, or was this merely the beginning of an even tougher journey? Before he could gather his thoughts, Kyle screamed, "Wait! The numbers don't add up. They go against the initial theory." The excitement froze, and silence enshrouded them. A wave of disbelief washed over the class. What did this mean for them? Could it be the end of their hopes? Marcus watched as doubt began to creep into Jess's face once more. All their hard work hung in the balance. That it was a pivotal moment. Would they circle back on the quest or push through this setback? Their next move could lead to discovery or despair. The clock ticked once more, and the path ahead was more uncertain than ever before. The room was thick with silence, broken only by the frantic scratching of pencils against paper. Marcus felt the air shifting from buoyant excitement to a palpable tension, heavy with what-ifs. He could see the same wave of uncertainty wash over the students, their initial adrenaline slowly giving way to fear. "Okay, let us take a step back," Danny suggested, his voice trembling slightly. "What does this mean? If the numbers don't match our hypothesis, then what?" Jess, usually so vibrant, had gone pale. "Maybe we made a mistake." Maybe her voice trailed off as her eyes filled with doubt. She had poured so much into this project, and to see it unravel was almost unbearable. "No, we can't think like that," Marcus interrupted, his determination surging. "This isn't failure. This is part of the process. Every great discovery happened because someone was brave enough to ask, what if? But we've worked so hard," Kyle exclaimed, slapping his paper in frustration. "It feels like the ground just dropped out from under us." "It's okay to feel that way," Marcus replied softly. He knew that they were caught in the crossfire of hope and despair. "But we can't lose sight of what we've accomplished. If we're running into contradictions, that just means there is something more to discover. This is where real innovation happens." The breath in the room began to steady, students shifted eyes from the board to each other. He noticed a flicker of understanding crossing Jess's features. She was thinking. "We need to dive deeper," she said quietly. "Maybe the variables we used weren't right. Maybe we can adjust them." "Exactly." Danny jumped in, his enthusiasm rekindling. "We should take a look at our original parameters and see where we can adapt." The classroom buzzed from the isolated breaths of renewed confidence as they went back to the board. Marcus stepped back, allowing them to take ownership of the crisis. He watched the gears turn, their minds distracted from disappointment, transforming it into camaraderie and shared purpose. As the students began jotting down new possibilities, his heart swelled. In learning together, they were growing together. They were vulnerable, tasting that bitter edge of failure, but also realizing that every setback was a seed for growth. Minutes turned to hours, and during that time, they flipped through theories, recalibrated equations, and handled data with fresh eyes. Each suggestion brought more heated discussions, some disagreement, and finally, solutions. "But if we take into account the external influences," Kyle proposed, his face lighting up, "then the numbers could actually work." "We're missing those factors." "Yes. And that shifts the entire perspective," Jess added, her fingers dancing over calculations excitedly again. The energy in the room was electric as they gathered around the whiteboard, reconstructing their ideas with the fervor of a new adventure unfolding. Marcus could hardly contain his anticipation. This was what they needed, reminding themselves that every challenge could turn into a new opportunity. As they neared their next test, Jess turned to Marcus, her spark back in her eyes. What if this truly leads to something incredible? What if our failure leads to a solution no one else has found? That's the spirit. He cheered, genuinely impressed, but just as they prepared to test their new theory, the reality of their previous setback lingered in the air. What if they failed again? It was one thing to have a breakthrough, but what did it mean if they stumbled once more? The tension was back, a quiet storm about to erupt. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the next test might change everything or leave them scrambling again. As he gathered them around for the final calculation, he could only hope this time they would finally break through. Would they turn this moment of doubt into a triumphant moment of discovery? Or was another setback looming in the shadows, waiting to derail their hard-won progress? The last day of school brought a light breeze and a sense of optimism in the air. As Marcus entered the classroom, he took a moment to absorb the surroundings. The walls seemed to pulse with the life of all the students buzzing with energy. Today was the day. This was the moment they had been working towards. The discovery they had sought was within reach. Danny bounded to his side, his spirit as bright as the sun pouring in through the windows. "Dad! Let us do this." The pride in Marcus's heart swelled. In just a short time, his son had grown so much, not just in math, but as a person, facing challenges with courage. The familiar faces of their classmates settled into their seats, but this time, there was no tension in the air. Instead, there was unity, an unspoken understanding that they were all in this together, ready to tackle whatever came their way. Marcus felt the overwhelming support from each student, a tapestry of hope woven together with threads of determination. "All right, everyone. Today is about applying everything we've learned," Marcus called out, grinning. "Are you ready to uncover our final solution?" A chorus of affirmations rang through the room, and the passion ignited once more. He wrote the equation they had worked on for weeks on the board. This intricate problem had been their steadfast companion throughout the ups and downs. Together, as a united front, they would crack it. "We'll break it down step by step, just like before. But remember, if we don't get it perfect, it's still okay. We grow from that." The room hummed with energy, and they dove into the calculations, bouncing ideas off one another, lending support in the face of uncertainty. Kyle shouted out an idea, and Jess quickly followed with a suggestion of her own. Each voice rang with clarity, building momentum. And there it was. The initial missteps became a backdrop to their newfound resolve. They weren't just a collection of students, they were a collaborative force. As they progressed, Marcus's heart raced. There was an electric spark, the kind that comes from creating something new together. Finally, as laughter intermingled with determination, they reached the pivotal moment. "Wait. If we implement these parameters into the equation now, it should align," Danny exclaimed, eyes gleaming with excitement. It was Jonas who took the lead, drawing the critical connection on the board. Silence fell again as they all stared at the equation, the anticipation nearly suffocating. One shared glance bound them together, a collective breath filled with hope. Could they finally do it? "Let us test it," Marcus urged, his voice strong with encouragement. Hands scrambled to calculators and papers. They worked in synchrony, calculators whirring and fingers racing across keys. Suddenly, gasps erupted. It's working!" Jess shouted, her voice trembling with disbelief. The room echoed with shouts of excitement, minds racing to unpack this possibility. The weight of previous setbacks evaporated into nothingness. As they huddled around the board, Danny turned to his classmates, a wide smile illuminating his face. "We did it! Together!" The joy washed over them like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. They had turned uncertainty into triumph. Marcus stepped back, watching the realization wash over each student's face. They had come together, not just to solve a problem, but to forge a connection that transcended social barriers. No longer defined by privilege or status, they were united in their pursuit of knowledge, every single one of them valued for their unique contributions. As they celebrated, Kyle stepped forward, sincerity replacing the earlier skepticism etched on his features. "Marcus, I never believed you could do this. But you showed us that anyone can contribute to the conversation. We need more of this kind of thinking in our world." The room erupted in agreement. There were smiles, handshakes, and hopeful whispers of future collaborations. With that, Marcus felt the last shred of doubt fade away. He turned to his son, pride swelling in his chest. This is what it's all about, buddy." Danny nodded, eyes shining, understanding that they had not just found a solution to a math problem. They had discovered something far more significant: the power of community, empathy, and collaboration. As the final bell rang, their friendships deepened. Each student left the classroom holding on to a piece of this experience, feeling like they had shaped their own futures together. "Remember," Marcus called out, his heart full. "Every challenge is an opportunity. Stick together. Lift each other up." And as they walked out into the summer sun, hope illuminated the path ahead, a brighter future for all, paved by shared dreams and collective triumphs. They had stood at the edge of uncertainty and risen together, an inspiring testament to the idea that no matter where you come from, with hard work and heart, anything is possible. Now, you need to act. This is your moment to support the channel and join our community. Subscribe immediately so you won't miss any of our exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment your reactions about this inspiring journey. We want to hear your thoughts. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of getting involved right now.